The pool looked like someone had tried to frost a cake with sidewalk. Karen stood on the edge, smug in her sun hat, clutching an empty bag of Quikrete. She said with a triumphant tone, per community guidelines, "Your pool was a code-violating liability." That's when my cousin Dominic rolled up in a neon orange cement mixer, stepped out in steel-toed boots, and spat a sunflower seed. He growled in a low voice, "You want to play concrete games, lady?" Karen laughed. 10 hours later, she was in handcuffs. Let me rewind and tell you how we got here. My name is Spencer Voss. I'm 38, divorced, and an introvert who somehow ended up owning a modest ranch-style home in Cypress Needle Estates. This is one of those communities known for its ornamental koi ponds, passive-aggressive signage, and bi-weekly hedge evaluations. My one indulgence in life was the above-ground pool in my backyard. My uncle installed it back in 1999, and I refurbished it myself in 2022 using YouTube tutorials. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Enter Karen Winsley, the self-appointed president of our HOA. She got the position because literally no one else showed up to the last vote. Karen viewed my pool as what she called an aesthetic toxin. I viewed Karen as a woman who pronounced bougainvillea like she was issuing a threat. The tension between us had been building for months, but I never imagined it would escalate to what happened next. It started with the notes. First, a bright yellow paper tucked under my windshield wiper that read, "Standing water attracts mosquitoes. HOA Rule 8.3.1. Then came photos taped to my front door. Pictures of my own pool with dramatic red arrows and captions like "I.S. this safe" in all caps. She started citing random water feature standards from a 2004 HOA pamphlet that was clearly referencing hot tubs, not pools. The woman was on a mission. Karen called for an emergency meeting about what she termed community liquid hazards. Only 3 people showed up, and 2 of them were her cats that she'd brought in strollers. Yes, cat strollers. She stood at the podium for 45 minutes, presenting a slideshow about the dangers of residential water features. The one human attendee besides myself fell asleep halfway through. Then one morning, I walked outside to water my tomato plants and found my garden hose padlocked to a bird feeder with a zip tie. A post-it note was attached that read, "Hydration usage under review. HOA compliance." That's when I called my cousin Dominic. He laughed for 43 seconds straight, then said in his thick Brooklyn accent, "Let me know if she touches the pool." I told him he was being paranoid. Spoiler alert, he wasn't. The incident happened on a sunny Saturday while I was at Costco buying frozen spanakopita. I have security footage of the whole thing, and watching it still makes my blood boil. Karen arrived with 2 of her lackeys, wheeling in 5 80-pound bags of cement. They hoisted those bags over the side of my pool and dumped them in dry. She actually filmed herself doing it, grinning like some kind of chalk demon while narrating. She announced proudly to her phone camera, "Today we neutralize a code violation. HOA justice is being served." Then she grabbed a garden hose to, as she put it, activate the blend. The footage went live on the HOA's Facebook page within minutes. She was so confident, so smug, so absolutely certain she was untouchable. Unfortunately for Karen, she didn't know about my outdoor security cameras, and she definitely didn't know about Dominic's connections in the concrete business. When I got home and saw what had happened, I couldn't even speak for a full minute. My beautiful pool looked like a giant bowl of gray oatmeal. I called Dominic immediately. He said in a deadly calm voice, "Don't touch anything. Document everything. We're coming Monday." When Dominic says we're coming, he means business. You see, Dominic runs Voss & Sons Concrete Solutions, a family-owned crew of chain-smoking Italians with 0 patience for HOA theatrics. Monday morning arrived like Christmas and revenge had a baby. Dominic rolled up at 7 a.m. sharp with 4 crew members, industrial jackhammers, and a drone he'd labeled Cement Buster 2000. They cleared my driveway to set up their equipment, and one guy literally made espresso on the cement mixer engine. These weren't just workers, they were artists of chaos, and Karen was about to become their masterpiece. By noon, the ruined pool was fully drained, documented, and prepped for restoration. Every chunk of concrete was catalogued and photographed. Meanwhile, Dominic marched over to Karen's house and handed her a legal invoice. The total was $6,732 for unauthorized concrete discharge and something Dominic called malicious slabbery, which I'm pretty sure he made up but sounded official enough. Karen tried to deny involvement, standing there in her doorway with her arms crossed. She said with fake innocence, "I have no idea what you're talking about." That's when Dominic pulled out his phone and showed her the Facebook video she'd posted. Her face went from smug to pale in about 2 seconds. But the real kicker came when Channel 8 News showed up. Apparently, someone had sent them the video of Karen dumping cement while yelling "Begone swimming sin." It aired on the 6 o'clock news that night. The sheriff arrived at Karen's house the next morning. I watched from my kitchen window as they read her rights. She kept shouting about performance art and community standards, but the officers weren't buying it. They arrested her for trespassing, property damage, and violation of Municipal Code 14.4b, which covers improper disposal of building materials. The court case was beautiful. Karen showed up in a power suit, ready to fight. She claimed it was performance art meant to highlight the dangers of non-compliant water features. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, actually laughed out loud. She called it felony vandalism with bonus arrogance and said it was one of the most ridiculous cases she'd seen in 30 years on the bench. Karen tried to represent herself at first, which was a disaster. She brought a binder of HOA rules that she'd highlighted in 6 different colors. She kept objecting to things that weren't objectionable, saying things like "I object on the grounds of neighborhood aesthetics." The judge had to explain to her 3 times that aesthetics wasn't a legal defense for destruction of property. When Karen tried to submit a petition signed by her 2 cat ladies demanding all pools be banned, the judge threatened to hold her in contempt. Her closing argument was something else. She compared herself to Rosa Parks, saying she was taking a stand against aquatic tyranny. She actually used the phrase "chlorinated oppression" with a straight face. Several jury members were visibly trying not to laugh. One elderly juror had to excuse himself because he was coughing so hard from suppressing his laughter. Karen seemed genuinely confused by the reaction, which made it even more absurd. I countersued for damages, emotional distress, and the cost of pool restoration. My lawyer, recommended by Dominic, was ruthless. He presented evidence of Karen's pattern of harassment, including 23 separate complaint letters she'd filed about my pool over 6 months. He showed the court her Facebook posts where she called me a chlorine criminal and a splash zone terrorist. The jury deliberated for less than an hour. Karen was ordered to pay full restitution for the pool damage, plus punitive damages totaling $18,000. She also got hit with criminal charges that carried a $1,000 fine and 200 hours of community service. But the best part was when the judge ordered her to attend a 12-week anger management course called "Let Go of the Clipboard." Karen's jaw dropped so hard I thought it might hit the floor. The HOA board held an emergency meeting that night. The vote to remove Karen from her position was unanimous. Even her 2 allies voted against her. When they announced the results, she stood up and screamed that we were all going to regret this. Security had to escort her out. She was also issued a restraining order requiring her to stay 100 feet away from any body of water deeper than 3 inches on my property. The final blow came when her employer, a local real estate agency, saw the news coverage. They fired her the next day for bringing negative attention to their brand. Karen stood on her driveway, holding the termination letter, and just stared at it in complete shock. She muttered something about conspiracies and walked inside. That was 3 months in jail suspended, $15,000 in fines, and her entire life turned upside down because she couldn't mind her own business about my pool. But wait, there was more. The district attorney decided to add federal charges because Karen had used the U.S. Postal Service to send threatening letters about my pool to various city officials, claiming I was operating an unlicensed water park. Mail fraud. She'd also falsely reported my pool to the EPA as a toxic waste site, which meant she'd filed false reports to a federal agency. The federal prosecutor told me she was looking at up to 5 years if convicted on all counts. When Karen heard about the federal charges at her arraignment, she fainted right there in the courtroom. The bailiff had to bring her water, which she refused, saying she didn't trust any liquid that wasn't from sealed bottles. Even facing federal prison, she couldn't let go of her water paranoia. Her lawyer quit on the spot, saying he'd rather defend actual criminals than deal with her conspiracy theories about chlorine.